I'm Phil Moffett. I'm a businessman from Louisville. I've never run for public office before, and I'm the only candidate in this race that's not a career politician. I've been married to my wife, Christy, for 14 years. God didn't bless us with the ability to have children, so we adopted. We have four wonderful kids, aged 12, 11, 9, and 9. Got a real active family that's half crazy if you ever want to stop by and get a little action. Mike Harmon's my running mate. He's a state representative out of Danville, Kentucky, and what he brings to the ticket for us is institutional knowledge. I'm an outsider, so I've never been through the legislative process, and I don't know the ins and outs, but Mike does. And he's a great man to have on the ticket. He's from a district that's only 29% Republican, and he's been elected 5 times, this last time unopposed. Now that says a lot about Mike, because let's face it, if you're on a 71-29 deficit and they want to get rid of you, it doesn't take much. But they really like Mike, and they like the fact that he serves everybody, and I'm proud to have him on the ticket. He and I put together what we call the Four Corners platform, and this is our vision for Kentucky and how we'll make Kentucky the most prosperous state in the nation. The first corner of that platform has to do with state sovereignty. You know, our founders gave us the 9th and 10th Amendments to fight back against the federal government when they do unconstitutional things like Obamacare, or put regulation on us through the EPA and the FDA and all the other 3-letter acronyms that are out there in the federal government. The time has come because our federal government has become too big and too intrusive and too expensive, and they're taking our liberties and freedoms away. The time has come. The time has come to stand up and fight them. And the founders gave us the tools in the 9th and 10th Amendments, and we'll use them. The second corner of our platform has to do with jobs and prosperity in Kentucky. We've only had personal income growth in Kentucky of 4.3% over the last decade. Not a year, for the decade. Now, inflation over that same time has been up 27%. The average state's personal income growth close to 17%, yet we're at 4.3%. And the reason is we have a tax code in Kentucky that does more to drive businesses out of Kentucky than it does to attract them. We have 240 different state taxes, fees, and surcharges, and Mike and I will strip those away and replace it with a consumption tax. A single-rate consumer sales tax on all goods and services at the retail level. This will give you the opportunity for the first time in your lives to understand how much state government costs you, because you'll see it on every receipt when you purchase something. And it's a fact of management that you cannot manage something if you cannot measure it. Currently, we cannot measure how much state government's taking from us because they have these 240 different state taxes, fees, and surcharges. You'd have to be Einstein to figure out what your tax burden is. But I'm going to put it on the table for you and show it to you. It'll be a 7.1 to 7.2% retail sales tax, and that's it. No more income taxes, embedded taxes on products like alcohol, tobacco, or gasoline. And there will be, I'm going to take away that monumental moment you have every year when you get to go to your county clerk's office and renew your car tax. I'm taking that away from you. That's a state level tax that you don't need. And as a business, 2/3 of the taxes I pay to the county are passed through to the state, and they're on the tangible assets of my business. Those will go away as well. It'll make businesses profitable, and as I said earlier, profitable companies hire more people. When companies hire more people, they bid on our labor pool. When they bid on our labor pool, our wages go up. It's simple economics. And we'll get that dynamic in place in Kentucky so we can thrive like Tennessee, Texas, Florida, and Nevada. And it can happen here in Kentucky as well. The third corner of our platform is education. I got involved in public life through education because I started a scholarship program in Louisville called School Choice Scholarships. We take low-income kids out of Louisville's failing schools and put them in private schools. And since 1998, we've done that for 3,600 kids. Now, these are the kids the education establishment says can't be educated because they're extremely low income. Many of them are minority, and many of them have very chaotic family backgrounds. And coming into our program, only 40% of them can read at grade level, and only 28% can do math at grade level. But after 3 years in a private school, where the expectations are higher, the curriculum is tougher, and discipline is enforced, after just 3 years, 96% of these kids are at or above grade level in reading, and 81% are at or above grade level in math. We can do that. We can do that statewide. The problem with our public education system is it's a broken business model. We don't have any accountability, we don't have discipline in the classroom, and we don't have parents that are involved in the process, and we're going to change those things. The first thing we're going to do is put accountability at the district level and make the superintendent accountable for everything that happens in their district. But to be fair to them, we need to give them the same opportunities I have as a businessman to be successful. They need to be able to manage their budget, their personnel, and their curriculum as they see fit to help the kids in their care. At the classroom level, it's just a fact. Children don't learn if they don't submit to their teachers. And we do not require children to behave in our classrooms anymore. And that needs to change. I will give teachers and principals the dignity and respect to kick chronically disruptive kids out of class or even out of school if necessary if they will not behave. Because they need to understand their actions have consequences in elementary school. Not when they're 35 years old and can't pay their bills, they didn't graduate high school, and they're moving back into our basements. By the way, I'm going to fill my basement with concrete to keep my kids out of that. But to get parents more involved in this process, we need to make them consumers of education. And what I mean by that is we're going to have to allow them to choose where their children go to school in the public school system. When we do that, they will start to pay attention to what's happening at the school level. And if things aren't happening well, they move them to another school until they find a school that their children perform. And I can tell you in our scholarship program, some of these kids go to 2 or 3 different schools before they find one where they click. And when they click, they take off academically. But we don't allow that in our public school systems now. We need to change it. We also need public charter schools, and we need a charter school law that allows charter schools to be as innovative as possible. And in states that have done that, charter schools are the best alternative for kids that have fallen the farthest behind in reading, math, and science. By introducing those two concepts, public school choice and charter schools, we introduce competition to the public school system for the first time. And competition, anytime you introduce it to a market, lowers cost and improves quality over time, and it's absolutely possible in public education, and I'll hold Florida up as an example. 13 years ago, they were ranked 48th in the nation. They instituted 4 public school choice initiatives. After just 13 years with widespread public school choice, vouchers, tuition tax credits, they're all the same types of vehicles that gets parents more involved in picking their schools. They went from 48th to 10th in 13 years. We can do the same thing in Kentucky. Now, the last corner of our platform is about state debt and the size of state government. 10 years ago, in the year 2000, I guess now 11 years ago, we had about a $3 billion debt position in Kentucky. We had municipal bonds that were about $3.5 billion, but our public employee pension plan was $500 million overfunded. Now, if you fast forward 10 years, this is our position today. We've gone from $3.5 billion in bonded debt to almost 10. Our public employee pension plan's gone from $500 million overfunded to $34 billion underfunded. We now have a net debt position of $44 billion, and it was just $3 billion 10 years ago. Now, why is that? We have a balanced budget amendment in our Constitution. How in the world can we go into debt that much? The reason is our balanced budget amendment means nothing. We have a 2-year budget, and what it says is we can project enough revenue to cover our increase in our debt payment, then our budget is balanced. Well, I can tell you, folks, if I ran my business that way, we'd be out of business in a year. If you ran your families that way, you couldn't afford the ticket to this dinner. And we've got to stop this nonsense at state government and budgeting. We have to get back to common sense budgeting, which means we don't spend more money than we bring in, and we don't spend it before we have it. And we have to turn our public employee pension plan around, and I talked about that earlier and won't bore you with the details again. But you have to understand this, folks, and it was brought up in the earlier questions. We are ranked as the worst run state in the nation by Forbes magazine. And when you look at the title, it says, the worst run state in the nation, not California. And they go on in the body of that article to thank Kentucky for saving California from such embarrassment. Now, they are the laughingstock of fiscal irresponsibility in this country. And we're worse. And if you look at the numbers, we're worse by a long shot. We have to turn things around. In November of last year, you sent Rand Paul to Washington to deal with these same issues at the federal level. And you have that opportunity at the state level on May the 17th. And I implore you to support Phil Moffett and Mike Harmon for governor. We will stand up and fight for our Four Corners platform, and we will get the job done. Thank you, and God bless.